Hey, what is up guys, TG Meza here, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about how to control your gunfights. So I'm going to be using the knife only here, partly because they brought out a sick golden knife which knives faster, you don't get any of the stupid animation where you stab him in the shoulder, feel like a bouse but then get killed as soon as you're done with your first victim because it takes so bloody long, and also because it's shiny and gold. But the most important reason really is because I think the knife is the best way of demonstrating how you're going to have to play Call of Duty intelligently to do well. And the reason is because the knife you have an advantage in a very specific situation. The only time when you have an advantage is when you're within 64 inches of your opponent, and that's your lunge range. And whilst you meet anyone within this range, you're going to have the advantage because they're going to have to get 3 shots on you, or maybe 1 or 2 if they're using a marksman or a sniper rifle, or perhaps even a Maverick, whilst you are just going to have to press RT or R2. So obviously it's going to be a lot quicker for you to kill them than they can kill you. But anything outside of this and you're at a severe disadvantage. So that obviously means that you're going to have to manage it so that you're meeting the majority of your opponents within this kind of range, or at least with their back turned to you, for you to even go positive within a game. Now obviously there will be times when the lottery of hip fire or just someone's got really bad aim comes up in your favour and you're going to get them from 6 or 7 metres away. I would say that's the maximum where you can really hope to close the distance before they eventually, by just pure force of luck, will have mowed you down. So when these times do come up, you will feel like a badass, but you want to limit them, because whilst they may be entertaining, you may be thinking about how much you enjoy shitting on those noobs. Of course, you're at a severe disadvantage, and you're going to win far less of these gunfights than you would win if you were facing people at a situation which was to your advantage because you'd managed it properly. So what you really need to do when you're playing knife only is you need to seek to use your amplify perks if you have a headset. Even if you don't have one, using amplify knife only is very helpful. And you also need to use your awareness of the map and the sightlines that you've got to think about how close someone is going to be to you when you pop out from behind cover. So you need to think about this all at the same time, and you will be doing this while you're playing knife only, and you're going to use this to your advantage, and eventually you're going to be getting kills using this. However, this rarely translates through to people's play when they use, say, an SMG or an AR, just because it's far more tempting when you're using an SMG or an AR to simply look at the game from the standpoint of, I just want to fight someone on equal footing and my gun skill will win out for me and I'll be a bouse and I'll save the day for my teammates, and of course there'll be a movie about it because I'm just so amazing. However, this isn't really how it works, because if you're coming up against someone who is using the map to their advantage, even if you have vastly superior gun skill, if they have got, say, a height advantage on you because they're shooting down from something like the top red building in Freight, if they're up there whilst you're sitting out in the open with absolutely no cover, and they get to choose when the gunfight starts, where they're shooting at you from, and all of those different variables are under their control, they are going to be the massive favourites for that gunfight. Obviously, occasionally you will win the lottery and you'll feel like a bouse doing it, but these times again are going to be minimal and you want to minimise them. So what you're going to have to do for this is you're going to have to play Call of Duty in a different way to how you normally would. Because when you're normally playing Call of Duty, the extent of your decision-making process will go something like, which way do I think the enemy is spawning? And also, oh crap, he's got an AR, I've only got a shotgun, maybe I shouldn't get into a fight with him at 50 feet. So that's how far it's going to really go for you. Whereas what would be better for you is if you looked at it and you said, the sight line up ahead of me is quite a long one and I have a shotgun or an SMG, and you think to yourself, well, I could close down this sight line instead of just going all the way across it and hoping that I win the lottery by going around the other side where there's vastly more cover for me to go in between and slide in between to avoid getting into gunfights until I'm in an advantageous situation where I can get into a gunfight with an AR whilst I got my shotgun at 5 or 6 feet away and he doesn't stand a chance. So this is the way where if you're playing like this, you can give yourself a vast advantage, yet most people don't, because it takes effort and it's much harder to play in a way like this. You have to put in a lot more conscious effort into your play than you would say if you're just messing about with mates, run about, you realise that they have the C flag, alright, let's run towards the C flag blindly. Whereas if you think to yourself, okay, they have the C flag, I can move down that left hand side of the Bayview map next to the lighthouse where there's very little cover, and if you have an AR, you'll think to yourself, yes, that's probably the best way for me to go, because I'm either going to meet other ARs and have a fair gunfight, or I'm going to run into SMGs and have the advantage. Maybe there'll be a sniper on top of the lighthouse, but hopefully me and my mates will be able to pick him off eventually. Whereas if you think to yourself, okay, there's C over there, I'm at A, let's just run across to it, all of the shotguns and SMGs on the map are going to have a massive advantage over you. So you're not going to be wanting to do that. However, your decision-making process will often fail you, and you'll just run straight towards C. It's the simpler thing to do when you look at it. So, what you really need to do when you're playing COD is, if you look at the way I play knife only, I will often if I use my amplifier, I can work out where someone is, and I can make a very snap decision about whether I think I can close them down before they can get the kills on me. And you can translate this to say SMG play. For instance, I played on an SMG after playing knife only for a while, and it felt like easy mode. It felt like MSBS infected. They had throwing knives against my MSBS, and of course this meant that they were cross-mapping me and killing me one off a Ken. But that didn't really matter because I was feeling like a bounce the way I was playing. I was sitting around corners using my amplifier, maybe playing a bit campily, a bit less rushy than I would usually play, but I was getting a heck load more kills than I usually would. It was a lot easier. I was string kill chains together. I was getting high kill streaks, and it wasn't that hard for me to do because I was playing smartly. It was an effort, and it was harder for me to play in this way, but when I played like this, I was getting more of a reward from doing so. If I waited around that corner and I met that sniper or that AR as he tries to make his way to his camp spot, and I met him in a place where he is only 2 or 3 meters away from me, and he doesn't have the chance to back up and pick me off at long range while my Bison is spraying everywhere and can't hit him for fuck. But most people would see this as too much effort. There's stigma against it. You'd see it as try hard. You don't want to be that guy who takes his Call of Duty that seriously. You don't want to be seen like that as your mates. You don't have an excuse for yourself when you fail. If you do it this way, it is purely your fault. You can't blame the noobs when you realise that it's not because they're being noobs. It's because you've made the mistake and you've lost that gunfight all on your own accord. As soon as you accept that this game is all about stats and just people with 2 joysticks and a couple of buttons, and you realise that there is no luck involved in it. The only possible excuse which you can have to do with luck is lag, and that's vastly overused. It rarely ever affects you unless you're trying to upload a YouTube video whilst playing Black Ops 2, Call of Duty Ghosts, and watching another 2 YouTube videos in the background. Then you may be getting a little bit too much lag, and it's probably not the best time to play Call of Duty, something which I only realise halfway through my games, usually on a Saturday night. When I'm trying to upload these games, I'm usually a bit tired and not exactly thinking straight, so I end up doing that. However, for most of you, you're not really getting lag. If you are getting lag, it's usually very minimal, and something which is only going to affect the vast minority of your gunfights, where it's a completely fair one and you both shoot within milliseconds of each other. 90% of gunfights are decided before anyone's even fired a single shot. So the ones where you do both fire at the same time, if you lose those because of lag, then tough luck. You shouldn't have been firing at the same time. You should have had the advantage. You should have been firing at him before he even knew you existed. That is why lag shouldn't be a problem for you. Lag's an excuse when you can't win the game by yourself, so you have to say, oh look, the game has decided that I shouldn't win. It's not my fault. I don't need to get any better. I'm already perfect. I should have my own action movie, but it's not going to happen. You're not Arnold Schwarzenegger. You don't have an amazingly awesome German voice that sounds like it wants to kill you, but at the same time protect you and get you a motherfucking chopper. However, if you can accept that when you lose, it's not because some strange external being, known as the god lag, isn't smiling on you today, but instead it's because it's your fault, then you will improve as a player. If you decide that when you go into a building, you don't have a shotgun, so you better be aimed up and you better be ready, and if there is a shotgunner in there, you take note of that. You realise there's a shotgunner on the other team, and in future you make sure that you're engaging people at more optimum sightlines, so that if you do run into that shotgunner, he's going to get beasted and feasted on before he can get even a single hit marker on you because you're way too fucking far away from him. And that's really what I want you guys to take away from this today, is how you have to adapt and you have to take what you know about the other players, and you realise that if the other team is a primarily SMG team, then if you break out your AR or your LMG and you start fighting them at longer ranges, you will give yourself that advantage. As long as you are managing where you're fighting people so that it's your advantage, you're going to win vastly more of your gunfights. I know people that will say every time they lose a gunfight, it's just because, oh, he was lucky to be using the right gun for that situation, or something like that. But it's not that he was lucky to be using the right gun for that situation, it was that you were using the wrong one. He was using a gun and running the gun in the way which it was supposed to be ran in. He was running around with a shotgun and he was sticking to those tight corners. He was staying around that bar in strike zone and camping it for all he was worth, and he was getting the kills. If you approach him with an AR and you lose that gunfight, no, you're not blaming on the shotguns in this game being OP. They aren't. It's not Lag's fault in this game. He has a shotgun. What you should be saying to yourself is, oh look, he has a shotgun. Maybe the best way to approach him would be either to get my own shotgun, or perhaps me and my friend will enter from two different entrances at the same time, so at least one of us will get him. We can get that nasty, dirty, wrong camper out of there, and whoopee for us, the day is saved. So that's really what you guys need to take away. You guys need to be able to adapt. You need to know what your gun is good for, and you need to realise when it's not doing well, and you need to not be afraid to change classes so that you can suit it. You know what maps are going to work for which guns, you just need to think about it. And when playing in this way, it turns you into a super mega awesome Call of Duty god, and you will never look back on your previous dark days of just playing and running around corners and just shooting at what you see. You can drop a like and a favourite on the video and maybe subscribe. This is TG Meza. Peace out.